This is the Success Happy Hour experience with the Drunken Grape. I'm Rob, your show host, and today we're talking banking. Banking, what a dangerous topic, Francois, my guest. We're going to get into this shortly. Francois Lanthier, a real estate investor, an investment guru here in the Ottawa area who has some international acclaim now. Francois, what's the general sentiment of banking in the world today?
Yeah, so as many of your listeners probably can tell, there's inflation, there's all kinds of issues surrounding banking. So traditional banking, personally, you need it. We can't avoid it. Before coming on air, you were talking about tapping, using your debit to pay like $4 and things. So we need that service. But the banking I want to talk about today is very different. So it's setting up your own bank using life insurance policies. And there's a few companies in Canada that help people do just that. And then you don't need a banker anymore. You can borrow against your life insurance. And I'm not the expert, so don't quote me. But what I'm doing right now is you can borrow against your life insurance. Let's say you have $1 million. You've paid for it for many years. So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme or anything like that. It probably takes 7 to 10 years to fund your bank. But once you've done that, then you can borrow against that money and ideally repay it, but you don't have to because it doesn't appear on your credit. It doesn't hurt your credit score, as I mentioned. There is interest, so it does eat away at your life insurance eventually. But if you don't repay it, there's no penalty. You're not going to lose your house or anything like that, which is great because we're hearing more and more people having financial issues. And if you do this strategy, it can avoid you a lot of trouble, and you can finance various things using your life or someone else's. Let's say you're not super healthy or you're getting up there in age. Well, maybe you have kids or grandkids. You can insure them and own the policy on them and use that to leverage. So little wild concept, but you can check out a website. I don't know if you want to share the website, Rob, but let me know.
I will. Anyway. Yeah, we can bring that up, and we'll continue talking about this because you are hitting in something interesting. Banks have resold insurance policies many times over, in fact, and made a fortune off it throughout history. Often a lot of money goes unclaimed. This is sad. This is true. Obviously, life insurance, I really classify as more like death insurance because it is. But
usually
the ability to use this in life for most people, even and especially if they have a better opportunity to really leverage wealth and abundance, particularly if, and ladies and gentlemen, we're not financial experts here. So, always consult a financial expert, legal expert, get legal advice. I do want to say that at the start of this show. Also, smash the like, subscribe, share this content. This is a great topic today because banking is a difficult thing. Banking's been third-partied. It's great that you can close this gap to second-party. And getting back to insurance, if you have the financial intelligence and know-how to spot things that could actually move you in a much better direction much more quickly, and you need capital, and your insurance policy has enough capital, because I believe whole life insurance have investment vehicles attached to them as well. And if you can borrow against that and leverage it and make far more money, then it's only to your benefit and the benefit of those that inherit your estate for you to be able to leverage it. So correct me if I'm wrong, my friend, but that's the way I would see it.
Yeah, no, that's totally what it is, because you buy whole life insurance and you force feed it in a way. So you add some extra funding to it, and that's a tax shelter in a way. And you can deduct the interest, because there is interest when you borrow money that you've put in. But again, if you're able to borrow it at 6%, invest it at 20% return or more, then you're super happy, and it's money you may not have anyway. And True. People that have corporations or businesses, they can also have corporate life insurance on themselves. I mean, there's a million strategies. As I mentioned, you have to refer to the experts. I just thought I'd introduce this concept to your audience. I think it's fun. And yeah, banking, a lot of people complain. Well, this is a fun kind of banking concept. So
yeah, and it gives you a lot more control and anonymity.
That's
the reason
most
that
important part.
blockchain's exploding, there's always this moronic threat of going cashless, which actually I believe would be a complete disaster to the whole financial system. You wipe out cash, any country that wipes out cash, we are getting the heck out of them, Francois. I know we had this talk in the green room. Not a chance would I stay somewhere that would force me to give up all my personal information. That's really number one. Your privacy would be history.
Oh, yeah, it's
Number
gone.
two, you'd have no freedom. Number three, you could be taxed or fined or feed to death with impunity. And, for the people that use their tap cards to pay for under $20 purchases, you're paying fees after a certain amount of transactions. Maybe you're lucky and you have no fees, but most banks do. And always carry some cash. And getting into this is partly why blockchain took off, is because it's an alternative financial system.
Yes.
And we know the traditional ones don't work. You just talked about corporate insurance and corporate life insurance. That, in fact, is where companies have flipped life insurance policies on people many times that have passed on their workforce. And they've collected millions and tied the bank into the whole process, too. I mean, these are very crazy times, very crazy things that have really happened, particularly since we yanked the dollar off the gold standard. It really actually created a lot of problems. And a lot of people don't realize that because cash was tied to money, which made it money. Now it's just currency. But to be able to do this, yeah, exactly. It can be printed to infinity. But to do this is cool because you can take this anywhere, can't you? You can live anywhere doing this.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, this is an American concept. It's been adapted to Canada. So if you look up at the website you're sharing there on the screen, ascendantfinancial.ca, they've adapted it to the Canadian market. But if you're in the US, you can do the same thing, and I'm sure in other countries as well. What you need to check is the taxation, because in the US none of it is taxable. In Canada, of course, there are some components that are taxable. I'm not sure exactly how, but I think there's certain ratios. If you hit those and beyond, then there is a tax trigger. So you want to be careful of that.
Well, I know life insurance itself isn't taxed, but it could have to do with the investment bracket inside a whole life policy that, without a doubt, our greasy government would get its hands on any and all the money it can possibly can. That's the problem with the current system we live under. Whereas the States, and being a digital nomad and striving to be a digital nomad, because I know you're already halfway there, it is, you can always relocate. I mean, consult whatever country you're looking to emigrate to or become a resident of. But you can always go into much more favorable tax regimes. In fact, you can even go to no income tax regimes. Now, that doesn't mean no tax. If you go to a low income or no income tax zone, consumption taxes are almost always invariably higher, much higher. But the advantage of that is you get to choose how you pay your tax.
That's it. You consume or not, and then you could save. And yeah, it's nice. You have a bit more control. And again, that's the whole control discussion here. Same with becoming your own banker. Personally, I don't really want to become a banker, but I don't want to be begging people for money, for lines of credit, to borrow, for a mortgage or anything like that. So that
makes sense. And cheers to that, my friend. The happy hour. I got a Reposado tequila from Antille Tequila. Cheers to you, my friend. Crossing over the screen. Salut, monsieur. You know what's heartwarming on a nice fall day? A Reposado tequila. I was going to pull out a stout, didn't have time to get to the store. We'll get to that. But I featured this couple in my last podcast. Actually, Niana Ferguson came on. She's the first Black female owner of a tequila company worldwide. They started this in 2017 in the hotbed of Detroit, Michigan. Would you have ever thought of tequila coming out of Detroit? Probably not. But they were on a trip to the Dominican Republic with her now husband, Don. It was a surprise birthday party for them, or him. And he proposed to her on the beach, I believe, while on vacation. So they had a dual celebration. And then they talked about what they would love to do. And she had asked him, Don, what would you love to do if you could do anything? He said, I want to own a tequila company, but how the hell would I do that? There's just no way. And she just happened to be a high-level financial analyst. He is a corporate executive, so they left her corporate roles. She crunched the numbers. They found a way to do it. They actually distill their tequila, so it's double distilled or distilled twice from Blue Agave. In Mexico is where the distillery exists, in the Jalisco province, in the hotbed of Blue Agave. It has to be Blue Agave. It's highland and lowland agave, which makes this blend. What I love about Reposado is aged 9 months. They aged this in Tennessee bourbon barrels or whiskey barrels. You can even see how it ambers a bit and starts to get a golden honey color. Not only do you get the herbal characteristics of tequila, but you also get vanilla and caramel rolling out and softening it. It's just fantastic on its own. In fact, I'm going to dump it in my coffee. Coffee has a little bit of cream in here. And
Do you
honey,
drink
but I'm
it
going to
just
see
like
what
that?
happens. You know, this is the happy hour, so turn it in the happy hour, ladies and gentlemen. If you got a coffee at the desk, find something alcoholic to throw it in. Your boss won't see it.
Especially if it's clear, it looks like water.
Actually, that's really good. So what do you have there, my friend? You've got a fruit-flavored, fermented wine-like beverage, I believe.
Yeah, it's actually a fruit wine. So I'm not sure on the screen, but Haskap wine. So it's a very unusual berry. It's like flat blueberries. Some people call them Russian blueberries. And it's not a flavor. It's actually 100% Haskap with like water and other things. And it's actually made fairly local.
So fermented Haskap, yeah.
Yeah, fermented Haskap. That's it. It's made in Saint Pascal Bailon, so it's just east of Rockland, east of Ottawa, where I live. And anyway, I thought it was really neat. I'm not usually a fruit wine fan. I like grapes, but that's about it. But this one's really dry, so it's impressive and
cool.
Yeah, it goes well with all kinds of things. So I discovered it. Nice color and easy to drink, and it's great on an afternoon at work.
Awesome. I see you got something with Detroit back there on the screen too, in your corner.
Yes,
God
I love the
Detroit.
city of. I love
yes,
Detroit.
You love it, eh?
A beautiful city. I know it's got a bit of a reputation, but there's so much potential, and it's nice to hear success stories about people from Detroit. It's a city that's really coming of age, and yeah, so I'm building a wall with all the cities where I own properties. So I started with Detroit, but I'm going to be adding lots more.
Yeah, and this tequila from Detroit has won 50 or 60 awards now since 2017. Wow. This Reposado rates 92 points in spirit guides. I can't remember which one. There are so many of them, but it's a highly regarded tequila. I believe it's won either bronze or silver at the San Francisco Spirit Awards, and that's a global, international, that's a world championship level competition. So it gives you an idea of what they've done. They've relocated to Atlanta, but their home was Detroit, Michigan. Now, getting back to banking, let's roll into real estate for a moment, because Detroit hit very depressed valuation at one point. You know, The mayor was arrested, the black mayor that was there. I think he was embezzling a ton of funds. He's in prison. Goodbye and good riddance to him. I know the city went bankrupt at one point, where around 2012, somewhere around there. Yeah. Property value, the average value in Detroit was $6,000.
Yes. Yeah, it might seem scary to a lot of Canadians because, I mean, in Canada, we don't see that. But in the US, Detroit did go bankrupt. It's the worst story. But if you look at many large American cities, it's not that uncommon. Philadelphia, even Chicago, there's certain areas of Chicago that are really bad, really run down. But there's still a good, huge potential. There's still work. Detroit, there's tons of production happening. A beautiful wine scene. I visited this summer, and they have some really nice wine shops and restaurants and wine bars. So a very interesting city. I would compare it to Hamilton, Ontario. So Hamilton used to be very depressed. It was part of what people used to call the Rust Belt, St. Catharines, Hamilton, all those old factories. And now those cities are booming. So the same is happening to Detroit. And there's cranes everywhere, tons of construction. So I believe in it, and I invested wisely. I bought really cheap, not at $6,000, but very inexpensive. And now it's worth a lot more. It could go down, but it's just like cash and anything else. It could go down, but so far the rent's coming in. I'm happy. So yeah.
Yeah, there's some
There you go.
images here of Detroit, actually. I mean, some of these houses are run down, but look
Good
at the
and bad.
size of some of these properties and look
They're
at
huge.
some of these mansions. And these are all things that are for sale. And, you know, the city's not going to stay in the gutter, especially with
No.
automotive returning. As automation and we move into more environmentally friendly cars, we're not sure what the picture of that is yet, because electric cars pretty much are about as polluting as gas guzzling cars as of today,
Yeah.
because of the amount of pollution it takes. The amount of pollution created just to mine for lithium and cobalt, for instance, and rare earth metals. It's insane. And then what do you do with that battery when it blows in 8 years? But having said that, that is the direction we're going in. Progress does take steps at a time, and it's nice to see we are making that progress, and we are now taking that seriously. But with that, Detroit's going to boom. And this is really cool because you offer some awesome things within your real estate investing community. Ladies and gentlemen, you're a real estate investor out there. I would look into the bank of, Ascendant Bank, Ascendant Financial Inc. We're going to have the website into the show notes or the description of the show. Also look at Detroit. And I would reach out to Francois. You know, you're an expert in all things real estate. Speaking of which, what about Costa Rica in this happy hour? Might as well conclude with that, because
Yes.
my girlfriend's actually interested in buying a place in Costa Rica.
Amazing.
You know, I'm more in my heart is more in St. Martin, but Costa Rica, I understand it's a tough place to live 6 months a year with the wet season. You do have to worry about termites. You do have to worry about mosquitoes, but the quality of the build is high. I imagine they're using as little wood as possible in construction now, because you see a lot of cement houses and things like that, poured cement, concrete,
Yes.
which would definitely be very durable against all those climatic conditions. What's your thoughts on Costa Rica? I know it's a relatively safe country. It's probably the safest country in Central America.
It really is. So Costa Rica, just like any market, it varies a lot. So Costa Rica has 7 provinces, if I'm not mistaken. And my favorite is Guanacaste. So it's northwest of Costa Rica, and it's the driest province. So, it
That's
does
okay.
not have the rainy season as long as the other areas. So part of the country, yes, it rains maybe 6 months of the year. Guanacaste is more 3 months, and it's not even full time. I'm heading there in a few weeks, and it's the end of rainy season, and it's going to rain every 3 or 4 days. And then it doesn't rain for like 5 months, nothing at all. So termites, I haven't seen any wood there. Like there's no wood construction.
Yeah,
or
I would
anything.
imagine that would be avoided basically, because knowing that is a building hazard.
Yeah. So everything is poured concrete. You may have wood doors or wood windows, like decorative, but that's about it. Or the furniture. And then mosquitoes, I haven't seen any when I've gone. So whenever I've been there, it was very dry. It almost looks like a desert, like Mexico. So very different area. But a lot of people I know love the Nicoya
cool.
Peninsula, where it's very wet. So there you may have more mosquitoes and there's more forest. Guanacaste is very dry. It's just plains with sand and very different. It looks like Arizona a little bit. And then it goes green during the rainy season. So yeah, you
That's
have to
cool.
be careful.
That's cool. I love Costa Rica. I've been to Golfito, Punta Arenas, San Juan, or San Jose rather, San Jose City. I've been to Puerto Limon on the Gulf side. I've been to where have I been to? There's a couple of other places that just not coming to mind right now. But that was all through the cruise line industry. That was in the first few years that I was in the shipping business. And the climate is just beautiful. I mean,
Yes.
you wake up and you see toucans. I'm going to bring up an image just before we part of just some real estate ideas or thoughts in people's heads of what you can look at. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to reach out to Francois as well, because if you're interested in global real estate, you're a guru, Francois, and you obviously have a lot of experience with this. You've been doing this for the better part of over a decade now,
Yes.
avidly and intensely. I mean, you could buy for what, as little as about 150,000 US for a decent place in Costa Rica.
Easy. Even let's say you're happy with a 1-bedroom condo, there's some at $70,000. if that's good for you. But if you spend 150, what's nice is you can also get citizenship very easily. If you go below that, then it's a different conversation.
So if you invest $150,000, you can get citizenship in Costa Rica.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And that's not a bad place to live. I mean, the only thing you might have to worry about there would be their currency and currency fluctuations. So you just deal with everything in US dollars. That's what I would do to get around it. You'd have to. But take a look, ladies and gentlemen, at that climate. Take a look. Imagine waking up looking at that ocean or just green everywhere. The
sunsets are amazing every single day, like super colorful. Even on rainy days, it's just gorgeous. And the water, you can drink the water everywhere in the country. So it's not like many of the South American countries where we can't drink the water. There you can just turn the tap on and it's full of minerals because it's all volcanic soil. So you feel healthier after just a few days. So I love it. I would move there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, another cool thing too is, you see things like toucans fly past you. There's 5%. Yeah, 5% of the world's wildlife lives in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
it only has 0.08% of the world's rainforest. Yeah, 5% of all fauna. I think the ratio is the highest on Earth.
Wow. And 25% of the country is nature preserve. So you can really, really tell it's very lush and green, except for Guanacaste. Depending on where you go, it tends to be drier, as I mentioned. But there's beautiful.
Yeah, and there's blue zones in there. I don't know if you know what blue zones are, but that's where centenarians live. The biggest concentration of 100-plus-year-old healthy people in the world is in 5 zones around the planet. Okinawa is one. Around Greece and Crete is another one. Another one's in Sardinia, Italy. I do know that Costa Rica is a 4th. I can't remember what the 5th one is, but these are special regions of the world. And part of it is you get organic food. You get fresh food. That's the other thing to talk about is the food is just way better than what we eat here. They don't have the preservatives in it.
No.
You can eat fresh fish catched every single day if you wish to.
Yeah.
And it's just, you don't have to worry about a lot of things that you have to worry about with pesticides and things like that down there either. It's just, definitely a very high quality standard of living. And you could use Ascent Financial, ladies and gentlemen, if you have insurance to tap into that.
That's it. To finance it, you don't need to get a mortgage. You just become the bank and finance your dream.
Listen, cheers to you, my friend. My coffee and Reposado tequila. Coffee and Reposado tequila with a bit of cream. This is a fantastic beverage. What would you think of it in a happy hour? Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure having you watch this. Francois, you're always a tremendous guest. Anything you want to say, parting, what you're working on, or if anything of interest that people may want to gravitate to before we part?
Yeah, so people looking to invest in real estate. Personally, I find Canada and the US overpriced right now and quite risky. So my advice is more go to some of these more developing countries and countries that were not as hard hit by inflation. A lot of Europe is not hit as hard with inflation right now. So
That's true.
Yeah, like I'm looking at Spain. Spain was hit with inflation, but interest rates are really low for mortgages for Canadians or Americans. Buying in Spain, Portugal, inflation was like 0.3%. Very different story. If you're a bit more daring, the Middle East, there's some really good deals happening there, but it's a little, anyway, a little bit beyond my scope right now. But think outside the box. And I think there's great opportunities. And yeah, keep on listening to the happy hour and drink away.
Yeah, and Portugal is a dream spot. I love Portugal. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you decide to do, this is Rob and Francois from The Drunken Great.